a sadistic computer virus that only wants to trap you in its never-ending games of torment and suffering. Sonic.OMT is a different take on Sonic.exe, being an entirely different entity but taking inspiration from its original counterpart. You could technically say that this is Sonic.exe. How exactly? Well, in this video, I'll talk a bit about what OMT is and discuss all the games in which he comes from. And before starting this, I want to say that all these games are really high quality, especially One More Time Repixeled, the newest update, but we'll get into that later. I believe some of these games are still in development and some are likely to be remade or maybe added into Repixeled. I'm not entirely sure. The only time will tell, my friends. But before actually fully discussing the games, let's try to understand exactly just what Sonic.OMT is. Sonic.OMT is made by Mr. Pixel Productions and is the main antagonist of the Sonic.exe One More Time series. The OMT in his name stands for Outbreak Malware Threat, and much like his counterpart, loves to play games with his victims. I know a lot of people seem to think that OMT stands for One More Time, and I think that's also correct. Like, when I was searching on the wiki, that's what it said. It has like a double meaning type thing, like it could be One More Time, but it's also Outbreak Malware Threat. But the question still remains, where exactly does Sonic OMT come from? According to the wiki, OMT comes from an alternate dimension to humanity's own, unrestricted by the laws that bind the world together. The only common factor between the world is energy, ever flowing throughout the lands, the power that breathes life into every living being. In this world, OMT was born. It's formed shaped from pure energy. While OMT's homeworld is unknown, it's said that a disaster hit a nuclear power plant. And like Kirby absorbing powers, OMT absorbed everything that he could. He came to the humans to feed off of energy, but found himself wanting more upon discovering this strange place. At some point, coming upon what everyone here knows and loves, Sonic.exe. I mean, I wouldn't say everyone knows and loves Sonic.exe, but he's pretty popular, alright? Sonic.OMT finds a game developer that was developing a recreation of the original Sonic.exe tale. OMT, being curious, takes over the game as the developer falls asleep. Being malware and all that, he's able to program the game in his complete image. This seemingly happens overnight as the developer falls asleep, and when he wakes up, he notices that the entire game was completed and he himself is to be dragged into the game. But instead of disposing of him right away, OMT begins his very first game, and it's here that he realized something. Everything OMT did up to this point was pure instinct. And by running an experiment and giving this developer a vessel, it sparked something within OMT. And after tormenting the soul, he realized just how fun it could be to trap someone's souls within the game, and he found genuine enjoyment from their suffering, thusly leading us to the endless cycle of Sonic.OMT games. So essentially, he found Sonic.exe, got infatuated with the idea, and now he traps souls within the game and plays his never-ending cycle. Each game has different aspects to them, but share similarities in like when they're updated. The games go like this: One More Time, One More Round, One Last Round, and One More Time Repixeled. And I believe some of these games are actually canceled, if not completely canceled, just to be remade in the future, and I don't know if it's all gonna go into One More Time Repixel. For example, One Last Round is cancelled, but has the Knuckles demo and the Eggman demo, each having their own unique death screens you can look at, and cameos that appear in-game. One More Round also has a few more victims in it. Getting all these games together and trying to figure out which order they came in kind of like confused me, but I think I have an understanding of it and how you can experience these games. It's worth noting that One More Time and One More Round share similarities because they're all updated versions of like the same game, just adding a bunch of different stuff. One More Time also references Sally.exe with all of its new characters. So the order we'll be covering these games is One More Time, One More Round, all the demos, One Last Round, and then we'll talk about the very incredible one more time repixel. Lock in, boys. It's time to learn about Sonic.exe, more specifically, Sonic.OMT and the quality of his games. Our series starts off with One More Time, and it starts with a pretty good pixel art version of OMT, and it sets up for the events of the game, telling us Sonic.exe has come back for one more game. This, however, is a lie. There are like 50 more games after this, so I wonder how many times he's actually said it was going to be one more time. One more round, one last round. It's really never going to be one more time. So which one is really the last round, huh? Anyway, after telling us this, the game crashes. Kind of funny how you want me to play a game with you, OMT, then you immediately close it. Well, that doesn't seem like a good idea. That aside, we have our typical 3 victims in this game, and the ones that are going to be consistent all throughout the series. That being Tails, Knuckles, and Eggman. Starting off with who we usually do, or Tails. I know I make jokes, but the guy can never catch a break, and usually it has it the worst. And it doesn't make it better that on the OMT wiki, it says that Tails is his favorite victim. No surprise there, considering that Tails can literally never catch a break. We're started off in what appears to be just a normal green hill zone, but this, however, does not last long because we're taken to Hill Zone. And after not much moving, Sonic says this place is dull. Funny you say that, OMT, you made it, but he adds some details. Details being dead bunnies and a light shining on you. Walking forward a bit, we're met with OMT. What happens next is a good game of hide and seek, where you can't actually hide, and there is only Sonic.exe seeking you. It's more like tag, as there is a chase sequence, and Sonic.OMT, once he catches you, rips you in half. But there is actually a way to cheese it to where you could actually reach the ending. You do this by spin dashing right before the chase sequence and also jumping. At least I'm pretty sure that's how you do it, as that's how I did it, and that's how I got enough momentum to reach the end. This will be important later, and we'll find out what happens in One More Time. More specifically, what happens in one last round as well. But technically, I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to do this. Oh yeah. We're just gonna go ahead and move on to Knuckles, and I'm gonna leave you guys hanging. If you guys want to see what happens when you reach the end, I implore that you do it. I'll be covering more secrets in one more round, in one last round, as there's a bit more to get into there. But I'm trying to set up the beginning and give you guys an idea as to how far the series has come and how much Mr. Pixel really works on these games. That being said, after we see OMT to rips us in half, he tells us to try again, and in which case, we switch to Knuckles. Similar stuff happens. Sonic.OMT kills us after Knuckles tries to play tag with OMT. OMT simply forgets he has super strength, squeezes Knuckles' head off when he is it. Silly OMT. He then hits us with the classic Sonic.exe line and moves on to the next victim, Eggman. Now, I know it seems like I kind of skimmed over Knuckles a little bit, but like I said, trust me, I will be getting into it a little bit more in its sequels. Though that's essentially what happens throughout the series as Knuckles. OMT teleports from one place to another, kills you, quote line, shows pixel art, bada bing bada boom, move on to the next victim. Though it does get more unique. In this version, you're not able to go left as Eggman, so the only option is to charge up, and man, I forgot how fast Eggman is. And not fast enough, however, as Sonic is waiting for us at the end. After a somewhat gruesome death scene, OMT gives us a speech. It's basically saying how he can't be beat, and tells us the iconic line before spamming your PC with a bunch of messages saying the same thing. And when you close them all, well, the game crashes. Keep in mind, this is the original One More Time, and I gotta say, seeing this after playing the new version, I am very impressed by the glow up. Regardless, I like the pixel art used in this, and I think the concept is executed as bare bones as it may be. Though there is one cool thing and one secret that I kind of wanted to mention. This series tends to take a bunch of different routes. Should you put in the Sonic secret code, which I believe is up, down, left, right, later in the series becomes A, up, down, left, right, at the game over screen after everyone is dead. So firstly, you have to wait, game over screen pops up, you put in the code, and we see this sort of Story segment. What's interesting about this place is that OMT is simply in the background and we're playing as Sonic this time, perhaps symbolizing that we ourselves are going to be the next victim, as many have fallen before. This segment and Easter egg is honestly pretty cool, and watching it is it's honestly a little unnerving. It ends with Sonic being possessed, I'm guessing, or something is happening here. Yeah, that's actually it. One More Time was the beginning of Mr. Pixel's adventure with Sonic.OMT. Now, the first game was pretty cool because it took the original EXE thing and kind of made it a little better, at least in my opinion. But what One More Round does is it takes that idea and takes it even further. It not only references the original Sonic.exe game, but also has Sally.exe, which was a direct sequel to Sonic.exe with new victims and adds a really cool spin to it. So that being said, let's get into One More Round. We have our cast of characters from the first game, and I'll be talking about them and showing the footage for them first. Now, I believe One More Round is just an extension and improvement from One More Time, adding in the new characters and separate routes you can take as them. While this may have been in One More Time, in the chase sequence's Tails, you can actually reach the end and not die, as I said before. See? I said I was going to come back to it, now I am. Doing this takes you to a secret zone. This is the big difference between the original. Going to this secret zone, you reach the end and there is lava. It's not too long before OMT finds you and punishes you for breaking the rules. This scene is honestly a pretty gruesome because he's quite literally melting your head off, and he's mad because you didn't follow the rules. You were supposed to be caught. You weren't supposed to look for something else, and you should be punished for this. Thusly, that's what OMT does. And that's the main difference for Tails. Knuckles, on the other hand, is somewhat similar. However, in this version, well, let me just give a flash warning because his secret level has a lot of flashing lights. During this segment, when everything goes dark, running all the way back as Knuckles, you get dragged into the ground with EXE asking, why do we keep trying? Only for us to be taken to another dimension. With the crazy effect over the screen and text as we run by, climbing around doesn't really do much. Once we reach the end, there's nothing there until we try to run back. OMT comes out of nowhere and tries to give Knuckles a hug. As you guys can see here, there is a bug here that makes it to where OMT grabs Knuckles a bunch of times, and it just looks like he's like, "Get over here, you!" and then give him a noogie or something like that. But here's the thing, right? That doesn't exactly last long as this happens. OMT lets us know that we're next, and that's the secret for Knuckles. The rest would proceed the same should you go the same route. For Eggman, if you run to the left, the drill machine has now come to the forefront and is able to be used. Taking this moves us to another zone, which reaching the end only makes our head pop off, and OMT taunting us saying, "Take your secret ending." Harsh, man. Going the other way is the same as before, and after this, we're taken to everyone being locked. So where do the new characters come in? After waiting a second, the game crashes, and this is where the new content begins. It shows Sonic about to kiss Sally. Before they actually do, their eyes go white, and we get the blue screen of death. Kind of. Fun fact, this QR code actually works and takes you to the game page. Pretty neat. And then after that, we're then shown the normal Sonic screen with no Sonic until hands grab the top, an eye appears, and it's time for round 2. Our first victim being Amy, where she chases after normal Sonic into this ring. Fun fact I noticed, when Sonic is jumping, you can see he doesn't have eyes in the middle of the sprite. Unless this wasn't intentional, I thought it was a neat detail. Jumping in takes us to the special stage, and reaching the original goal makes this happen. Yeah, that's poor Amy. Which, by the way, that Sally intro that I mentioned before is, again, a reference to Sally.exe. And this is kind of following those events, but remixing it in a pretty cool way. So, what happens if you make it into this little ring area as Amy? Well, actually, you are brought to another secret stage. For your effort, and by the way, this isn't exactly easy to do, Sonic.OMT rewards you by Amy getting grabbed and ripped in half. I do like Mr. Pixel adds in extra stuff to happen and includes these classic characters as well. It's nice to see some new faces. I mean, not sure how I feel about them being gruesomely murdered, but a nice change of pace. Now on to the most innocent Sonic character. It's Cream! There are two routes you can take, left or right. Going left takes us to the forest and, oh hey, it's Majin. Continuing on this path, you find Vanilla. Lightning strikes and, Vanilla! No! Why? OMT, why would you do this to Vanilla? Cream is left to look at her mother's corpse as good old Buddy appears as Cream is crying. And, smashes her head in. But at the very least, she passed away by her mother. Rest in peace, Vanilla. You will be missed. Oh, and Cream too. This segment is pretty cool, introducing us to what I don't see played very often, Cream. It was also pretty interesting to see Cream's mother, as like Vanilla is brought into the series like maybe a few times. But yeah, if you didn't know, Cream's mom is named Vanilla. The next route you could take is the right path, in which you hit a bunch of boosts into, aha! Well, Cream thought she could cheese it this time, because last time she ran straight into the spikes. She is sorely mistaken, because OMT slams her face into the spikes. The pixel art here in animation looks really gruesome, but honestly kind of cool. And the art style on each of these only gets better as time goes on. This level also has some nice tunes to it, and it was kind of like a really neat callback because, as we saw last time, Cream actually runs into these spikes. Now, she stopped herself, did like a little animation, but still, got her head slammed in. So those are the two paths as Cream, leaving one victim left. The last person to go is Sally, and she only has one route, a classic callback to what I believe is Sally.exe. After not too much long of running, everything begins to cave in. I tried to look around, but I think her only fate is to be boxed in and turned into a bloody mess, which is tragic. And yeah, there really isn't too much more to say. I think this is one of the better EXE games out there, giving you options in what brutal way you want to see your favorite characters die. But the sprite work, music is great for anyone who's a fan of Sonic.exe or horror. That being said, let's go ahead and jump into the next game. And while it's canceled, it has a good amount of content in it. For it being canceled, it's actually quite polished, and this little intro sequence here is quite cool. Yes, that's right, my friends. We are jumping into one last round. And this game has the most amount of content and Easter eggs in the series, referencing a bunch of other EXEs and having completely new stuff. Now, it doesn't feature Cream, Amy, and Sally in this version, rather adding a lot more to the original cast of characters. And there are two versions of this game, the Knuckles demo and the early access Eggman demo. The Knuckles demo also features a bunch of content for Tails as well. There is a bit to get through in one last round, so let's get to it. In my first playthrough, I couldn't move, and standing still, OMT has the attention span of an iPad kid and apparently has like no patience. So yeah, that's what happens. And that is one death. I kid you not, I tried to move with my keyboard, but for whatever reason I couldn't. And then OMT almost immediately killed me. I don't know if this was a bug. I think he was supposed to wait longer, but it was kind of really funny. Right, aside from that, if you go on top of this little thing here, it's Luigi Kid. So that's a pretty cool reference, considering that Luigi Kid has done so much for the EXE community. In fact, I'm pretty sure these games were made by Luigi Kid's Sonic EXE Challenge. Anyway, continuing forward shows our EXE friend having a little snack before bringing us to his realm fully. After falling down a bridge, we're teleported once more. Seems like OMT can't make up his mind. Seriously, we switched from like 8 different places. We're met with the cute world full of darkness. Running forward, EXE is waiting for us and attaches himself onto you. Kinda clingy, but whatever. Continuing forward as normal triggers a death scene in which Tails gets stepped on. Gross. And by this, I'm pretty sure that by running forward and falling into a hole triggers the first death scene that you can get as Tails. However, there are a few things you could do after EXE attaches himself to you in the dark. You could go the opposite way to the beginning. Doing this, you pass OMT, in which I thought he was bugged. Spoiler alert, he's not. If you go a little to the left and not all the way, there's an area that looks a little different. Spin dashing into this wall takes us to the depths. More specifically, Abandoned Zone. One is drowning normally, which that doesn't trigger any special animation. One that is drowning, but this time OMT wants to be a little silly and block you off as you slowly watch the timer go down, effectively drowning you while he watches. A little tip, after you die, if you press 1, it'll reset the character. Right, if you don't fall down this waterfall of blood and you fly up, you're greeted with something I'm sure a lot of people are afraid of: spiders. In this chase sequence, if you are caught, like I was, you get stabbed. However, you can reach the end, though you're met with a much worse fate. Falling onto a web, Spider.OMT takes the life out of you, and it's pretty disturbing. Like, what the hell is going on here? Why is he doing that? Stop it. That's weird. There is another zone that we are all too familiar with, which is the hide and seek zone, this time adding a bunch more stuff and even a chase sequence. If you spin dash 5 times and you jump at the right time, you'll get enough potential to reach the end. And this may look familiar to some of you guys. Reaching the end of the level causes the lava sequence where he burns your face off. This time, it's voiced, which is pretty cool. Another thing is that in this general area, you can run into EYX. Should you find EYX, this happens. And the only other way to die as Tails is to fail the chase sequence and get torn in half. Before moving on to Knuckles, there is one thing I want to say, in that this added voice acting and gave a voice to OMT. Right, now on to Knuckles. As for Easter eggs for Knuckles, you can actually find Mr. Pixel. He's chilling up here while we suffer, mind you. And look at his little smile. You just gotta climb this little area here. You climb on top and boom, there he is. So what else happens as Knuckles? Well, the first death is Knuckles trying to hit OMT. He gets caught and, well, I mean, that's that. That bit actually hasn't changed very much since the original. However, if you maneuver your way around a little bit, there's a place where you can fall down a certain hole and you'll just be eaten. I guess we can't have anything, can we? Climbing up this thing takes us to Fatal Error, a popular horror character among the community. Coming across him actually crashes your game and is the only cameo that has an effect on your game. So any other person that you run into doesn't crash your game, kill you, or anything like that. Only Fatal Error, which is kind of representative of his character because that's kind of like his whole thing. Pretty neat. Climbing up this thing and running to the left, Knuckles gets off-screen killed. You can kind of hear the munching that's going on in the background here. And OMT basically says you can't run, which, obviously, you're literally eating Knuckles' organs. How am I supposed to run after that? Idiot. These death scenes get pretty graphic, but it was nice to go around and see just what happened if you tried different stuff. The next death happens when everything is dark, and we're once again dragged down into F Zone. It's kind of funny that it's called that. Really, it's just called or something like that. But this is a secret zone, and they've added stuff to it since last time. You can climb the wall all the way back up, and we're actually met with a very gruesome death screen, as long as a weird-looking OMT. Approaching this OMT, yeah, Knuckles kind of hangs here, and OMT kind of taunts you, as he usually does. Continuing forward, we get dialogue. Now, here's an interesting thing. You can bug the game out again and have OMT hug you multiple times, and it honestly looks kind of silly. It's the same as before, just with a new voice and a new death screen. If you climb a specific area, I know, pretty helpful, you'll find a bunch of OMTs in like snake-like fashion, and it's honestly pretty cool to look at, but they take away your leg, only allowing you to crawl. You can still glide, jump, and pretty much everything else, but you know, can't run. Now, what's interesting is that there is another EXE here, and this happens. I'm not sure who this is, really, but it was a cool find regardless. Falling into all of these hands, OMT shows his love for food by chomping off your head. Yummers. But if you thought that was bad, wait until you die and get eaten by Snake OMT. And reaching the end of the game stopped for me, so that's it for Knuckles. If you guys didn't notice this before, OMT almost represents satanic animals. The snake, spider, all of them resemble it, but there's no like satanic thing. It just kind of is a neat detail. Plus he gets horns throughout the series, so just an interesting thing that they included. And I also like the inclusion of other EXEs and Horror Brew characters. And the pixel art here has been really good. And the secrets that you can find, I would suggest that if you guys want to, you guys can go through and find all the deaths for yourself. Now, on to the separate early demo of Eggman. Eggman may have one of the coolest inclusions in any Sonic.exe game, as you don't play as just Eggman. Instead, you have the option to play as freaking Metal Sonic. As Metal Sonic, you have a little blaster thingy. This is used to shoot through these things to progress in a level. And losing at any point rewards Eggman with a rather scary death. You can even encounter the GOAT himself, Lord X.
Such a shame we're not in my world. The fun never ends there.
One of the coolest inclusions I have seen, and the way he just kind of teleports you away. Honestly, this was an awesome inclusion. I was so happy to see Lord X. I was like, dude, once I found Lord X was in this version, I was so excited. Anyway, should you progress with Eggman, you have codes you put in to go up or down, but aside from that, there isn't too much here, as this was a demo. Now, there are a few ways to die, as in Eggman gets his head chopped off, or Metal Sonic gets captured. There's this little area where, like I said, you have to blast through these things, and you kind of have to go around as Metal Sonic. But regardless of what happens, it doesn't really do much against Sonic.OMT. Eggman's section is rather small, has one Easter egg in it you get to play as Metal Sonic, and shows off the concept. The other stuff that would normally happen as Eggman can still happen, which is a pretty neat thing. You know, you go to the secret zone and all that stuff, but it was never finished, and this was a very, very early access demo. Still really neat. I wanted to mention it, and if you guys want to check out the other ways you could die, I implore that you check it down in the comments below. But considering as I have made you guys wait long enough, I'm sure a lot of people are very excited about One More Time Repixeled, as it may be one of the best Sonic EXE games to exist. Years in the making, my friends. I'm fairly certain this is a reboot of the series, and even if it's an early beta, I think this game is the best OMT game out of all of them. OMT welcomes us back with peak voice acting, and honestly, he's so convincing. I mean, he says he's here to help in such a convincing way, but be assured, my friends, he is not here to help. And after this, the game closes and all that, and we start off with some banger music. I mean, just listen to the speed drop. And then we're hit with OMT and a beautiful background, and it's already gonna be quality. Now, this version of the game is centered around OMT's favorite victim, Tails. You can play as Knuckles, but you're stopped pretty early on. As of recording this game does have a few bugs and can be a little difficult to navigate. But before anyone says anything, this is very early beta, and it already has an insane amount of quality. Pixel art, original pixel concepts, and also music and stuff like that. The Knuckles stuff is still in development, and the Eggman stuff is still in development, but there is a good amount of content here as Tails. That being said, we first appear in Green Hill Zone, or rather, Hill Zone. All the spikes have been taken away until we reach the end once more, where OMT takes us to Hill Zone Act 2. There isn't much exploring to be done, and there's only one way to go. Upon reaching the end of the zone, OMT rips out one of Tails' eye. I did not see that one coming. Too soon? Yeah, okay. With a really uncomfortable scream to go with it, he takes us to actual gameplay we can survive through. Oh yeah, in this portion of the game, you have to have some semblance of skill. And if you die, well... Yeah, not exactly something you want to happen, and poor Tails going through this. This is such a gruesome and awesome animation, and they really step it up from the last few games. You could tell that they put more effort into this, or at the very least had a lot more time to mess around with it. Though I will say, this is difficult. You have rings that if they count down to 0, you die. They count down passively or every time you're hit by something. Sounds simple enough, right? Wrong! Things can hit you in the air. If you're caught flying in the air and this little idiot comes by and hits you, you're screwed. You can even be double hit before your iframes end, making it to where you lost double your rings. Oh, the more you lose, the more apparent OMT becomes, which is actually pretty cool. Now, they do leave rings for you to pick up throughout the level. But there are so many things that can test this and all the things that can spam you, it gets a little irritating. Now, the pixel art in the background and all the enemies is so well done here, and OMT looks horrifying. The pressure here is amazing, and it would be pretty scary if I wasn't being blinded by unyielding rage! Anyway, reaching the end of this stage activates a chase sequence, leading us to the next game. We will be playing hide and seek. The chase sequence is somewhat nerving, not too hard to get through, even though I did die the first time I did it, I believe. You get a checkpoint, which thank God, because if I had to do this every single time, I would lose my mind. Right, so hide and seek, and honestly, it's a little difficult, such as the last level. The pixel art for this monstrosity in the background is amazing, and while it took me upwards of 2 hours to beat, the concept here is really cool. Like, you're actually playing hide and seek. Instead of, running back and forth, you're automatically caught. You now can sort of hide, like, actually. There's a timer that is counting down. And once it reaches 0, you have to hide. You can hide behind trees, rocks, and these little bushes. At least that's what I think they are. There are things that can shorten this timer, like these blood-curling scream monsters, and if you don't kill them, they alert OMT faster. You can also die by lava, but luckily this doesn't count as a life, as I'm pretty sure it's bugged. Oh yeah, you have 3 chances to not get caught. This section can be difficult because very few hiding spots are bugged. It's not too many, but there are some spots where you kind of have to strategically avoid these hiding spots because they're currently bugged and they will be able to see you. But there is a glitch that can happen where you can get infinite time. So basically, you won't have to worry, but I ended up messing this up by being hit by some sort of creature. And yeah, that was that. After a bit of strategic hiding, and once you get the feel for it, which again could take a while because this level is rather large, you get to the 3rd zone. But before getting into that, it's worth mentioning that if you put in A, up, down, left, right, you'll get to a level select screen. That way, you don't have to go through the whole game, and honestly, I am grateful for this. While I do encourage you guys to check out and get this far by yourselves, I would understand why it would be tedious and why it's here. So, what happens after you beat the hide and seek? This is the last section of the current game. The final zone is Abandoned Zone. This one is also difficult. I think you're supposed to be able to spin dash, but currently in the version I'm using, you're not able to. So you have to be rather precise with your jumps, and honestly, it can be a little unforgiving because the specific timing you have to be able to make it to the end is difficult. However, not impossible. If you persist, time your jumps right, you're treated to tails getting torn in half and being taunted by OMT, essentially saying you wasted your time trying to find some. So maybe this was kind of intentional in being like, hey, look, you tried for this long. I mean, what are you doing, man? What were you expecting? Something different? Which this is just a specialized version of the Sonic.OMT chase throughout all of the games. And yeah, he's not exactly wrong. Beating some of these segments takes time, but the overall vibe and work put into the game should be recognized. There's even a few Easter eggs you can find, such as a secret zone with some storytelling, or whatever this is.
Loquendo, espero que le gusten y dejen sus comentarios, gracias. Ahora sí, óyeme a mí, puto, estoy y...
Yeah, I'm not sure what the inspiration was here, but let me know down in the comments below. Repixeled shows the potential of Sonic.exe and just how intimidating he can be. .omt is a beautiful representation of creativity and hard work in the EXE community. All of these games share one thing in common, but they are always improving upon themselves, and Mr. Pixel slowly gets better as time goes on, till eventually he has some people help him in this version, and it only gets better. And I'm really excited to see what Mr. Pixel will do in the future. And that's it for the OMT games. While not perfect, the recreation of Sonic.exe is amazing, with references to characters to old games, amazing sprite work and music. It's nice to see a good representation of Sonic.exe, and I'm excited to see where OMT is put. Subscribe if you haven't for more EXE and horror content, and Mr. Pixel and the rest of the team, if you guys end up seeing this video, thank you so much for all of your work. Please keep it up, and I can't wait to see what comes out in the future. That being said, thank you everyone so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.